we were talking about not being selfish. Very basically. And although you may have heard this many times in a lot of places, I think that's what it boils down to, what it really boils down to. Not be selfish. And I think it's a quality that's easy to have and also difficult. Because the world seems to be pulling us in a completely different direction, in a direction of, again, self-obsession, self-centeredness. And it becomes all too confusing because, and that's the trick, I think, one of the tricks, is that while we think it's noble to focus on one's career and focus on one's personal development, yoga, breathing classes, Pilates, you name it, while we think it's quite noble to do that, quite healthy and sane, we don't realize that our nobility is no nobility at all, unfortunately. Our nobility is another word for selfishness. You see, we're lingering a little bit more on this because it's quite important. Society and industry is telling us, be selfish. Organizations are telling us, be selfish. And we're coming along and saying, don't be selfish. The next question becomes, or begs itself, how? How does one be whatever you want to call it, selfless, let's say? How does one be or become selfless? How to bring it about? How to be selfless? How to be without a self? How to avoid the trap of obsession, self-obsession, obsession with children, our own children, our families, our parents, our jobs, our classes, our health. How to avoid being obsessed with all of that. Do you really want to be selfless? If you do, why don't you do it? Why don't you just be selfless? I think that's it, really. I think we don't really want to be selfless, to be very honest with you. I think we think that being selfless is dangerous. It's going to cause us more harm than good. It's going to it's going to cause us to end up being hungry, without money, without jobs, unemployed, our children without a future, without a passport, maybe a foreign passport, without a master's degree, without a PhD degree, without a marriage, without their own children, without a respectful position in society. I think we have a hunch that being selfless is going to risk all of that. Risk everything we have lived for and strived for and struggled for. Not only ourselves, but also our parents and their parents, our ancestors. Simply to show up and say, okay, I'm gonna be selfless from now on. We think it's gonna risk all of that, and we hold on to that, to what we have accumulated, to what we have gained from our ancestors, our parents, what we have gained from our own experiences so far, professional experiences, personal experiences. We hold on to that deeply, inwardly. psychologically, emotionally. We identify with all of that, and that becomes us. That becomes an integral part of us. Integral meaning integrated with us, indivisible from us. That the experiences that we've had, the knowledge, the furniture, the property, the things that we own, that we've worked for, shape our very psyche, shape ourselves, constitute ourselves. In fact, I wonder if the self is anything apart from that, apart from our experiences and knowledge and property and money and skills, professional skills and well-being classes and all of that. Remove all of that. What are we? Or perhaps an easier question first is, who are we apart from all of that? Who are we? Who am I apart from my experiences, my wealth, my skills, my profession, my relationships? Who am I? Who are you? Have you ever asked this question? Apart from my children, who am I? Apart from my addictions, which is another form of self-obsession. Apart from all of my obsessions and addictions and compulsions, who am I? I think it's very important to make some time out of our busy schedule to ask these things and to give ourselves breathing space to question these things. I think it's worth it to do that, to question these things, to stop a little bit what we're doing and say, okay, one second, hold on, wait, what is going on? What is really going on? Who am I? Who am I really? And that kind of questioning is what passion is, I think, what living is. This is what living is. If I don't question all of this, I'm afraid we're not going to touch anything real. We're going to merely live in our world in the world that we presently live in. Let's not put a label on it. And what we're trying to do in these conversations is to look closer at our own nature and the nature of our own living, and see if we can see closer what is really going on. That is passion, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think passion needs to have a subject. Sorry. I don't think passion needs to have an object. I don't think you need to be passionate about art, or passionate about building bridges, or passionate about a certain job. I don't think that's real passion. I think passion has no object. In fact, I think passion is a quality in spite of any object. I think passion is the air we breathe. It's the way we look at life. That is what passion is. One either is passionate about living, not make an object out of living, but when I say passionate about living, in the sense passionate all the time about everything, not even about everything, just passionate per se, as a result of opening one's eyes and seeing the world around, and even closing one's eyes. Passionate all the time, passion all the time, regardless of circumstances, regardless of surroundings, regardless of society, regardless of personal gain. Passion, questioning. The need to touch something real. Not merely made of ideas or we want to approach this a little slower. They tell us, be self-obsessed. Even our parents, right? When they push us over lunch or over dinner or during the holidays, when they check in on us, they want to know that we're progressing in society. They want to know we're getting married, getting children, we're getting the job, getting the salary. That's what they're really checking in on, most of the time, if not all the time. And while, this is no invitation to be unemployed or not to have any salary or not to have a shelter over one's head or a family or children, by no means is this an invitation to any of that. But is this really it? Has this become our center? Ourself? And why do we need to have a center anyway? I think if we merely watch all this, it's inevitable that one would really look at oneself and no longer look at the other governments, the organizations, the people, the parents, the children, the news, the economy, the state of the economy, the job market. Of course, one would still look at them. The one who is already looking at them anyway. But I mean, one would naturally and without any intention at all zone out of that. Those will still be running in the background, all of those things. But one will zone out of them naturally, without intention, without willpower, without time, and not gradually. Meaning today zone out a little bit, tomorrow zone out a little bit more. No, not like that. I'm afraid that will still be stuck in the same loop of willpower, of time. And it's okay if one is doing that, of course. Everything is okay. And if we observe that as it's happening, then I think we'll also be able to put time in the background, zone out of time as well. And naturally, our attention becomes more inward. because it's quite basic to see and pick up on a trail that it's all coming from the human, the individual, including self-obsession with professional development, with personal development. That obsession is also coming from oneself. That conditioning is also coming from oneself. And so, with only the flame of passion, of looking firsthand, of questioning, of the curiosity to know, uncover, discover, that fresh smell of a new expedition, a new journey, that longing for discovery, not as an entertainment, but the discovery of something real, as a discovery of some treasure. That kind of flame, passionate flame for discovery. And with that flame alone, one's senses would naturally be directed to oneself and to the center that is governing all of this around, that is governing society, because now it's easy to see that society is not different from me. I'm no longer separate from society. I'm no longer wasting my energy feeling hate and antagonism and anger towards society or a certain part of society or a certain group in the society. I may be watchful of a certain group because that group is carrying out offenses, killing another group or my group, but that is also in the background for the time being. Hatred and antagonism and cynicism, which is another form of violence. Cynicism, ladies and gentlemen, especially these days, everyone's cynical, everyone's sarcastic, which is a form of bullying, which is a form of hate, confusion, conflict. I think it's possible to, as one's energies are naturally, and again I say this, naturally directed inwardly, not necessarily deep inwardly, but maybe this is not the right word, inwardly, but basically attention is now more presence. I think presently, not inwardly, is a better word for it, as our attention is naturally brought about presently to the present, to what's in front of us, to what's real. I think there's a possibility for me not to be separate from society, and therefore not dissipate energy being antagonistic and hateful towards society as a whole or as certain parts of society. But I'm afraid that division between oneself and society cannot be removed until I'm able to see and feel. And when I say feel, I mean feel very intensely, very privately, very intimately, very clearly, without a single distraction from anyone or anything, till I feel so intensely the division in here, in front of me here. The division between my mind and my hands, the division between the mind and the heart, and not that these things are divided in reality, but just for the ease of communication. We're merely separating them, and perhaps that's a mistake. Perhaps we shouldn't even separate them for convenience sake. So if I may rephrase, if one is able to bring attention here, for that attention to come naturally, and becomes very intensely and privately felt that how I'm the cause of all of this misery around me, pollution, war, violence, conditioning children, meaningless decades and lifetimes from our ancestors till now. I'm the cause of that. I am my ancestors. I am the government. I am my children. My children are me. I have turned them into me. I have turned myself into my ancestors. I am the government because I am the one voting for those candidates. I am the candidates themselves. Candidates share the same emotional molding as I do, same obsessions, same mental movement. My self-obsession is really at the heart of all of this. And there is no way to escape this. I can't escape it. I'm in a corner. As long as my self-obsession remains, or so long as my self-obsession remains, so long as society is going to be like this. I'm cornered. I'm in a corner, stuck. Because I'm the only thing orchestrating all of this. My self-obsessions, my noble self-obsessions are causing all of this around me. And so I'm cornered. I have trespassed everything by all standards. I've trespassed. I've been trespassing all my life. I've invaded and been violent to everything and everybody in me, around me, to the animals, to the children, to the stranger, to other groups, to my group, to myself. I've trespassed. I've invaded. I've been aggressive. All in the name of selfishness and security for oneself. How dangerous is that? I've escaped from all of this. I've done that. I've escaped. I've tried substances, relationships, books, scriptures, groups, hobbies, countries, passports, everything. And I can see that. I see all of that. I've merely tried to escape my selfishness, myself, my violence, my stress, my experiences. I'm still cornered now. Because I know I cannot go left or right. If I escape, I'm going to come back to the same, to square one. If I'm violent again, well, I'm violent. Of course, I'm still in square one. And in that moment of cornering, ladies and gentlemen, one's feelings become extremely intense, extremely isolated from one's surrounding. Very intimate moment, very private moment. And in that privacy, intimacy, isolation may not be the right word, because I'm not really isolated from anything. In fact, I'm in communion with everything right now. This is compassion. And that moment of compassion, of inability to move left or right, and that extreme clarity that's taking place. Find out what happens. Find out what happens to the center that is orchestrating all of this.